"I'm not going to apologize for what I did," she said with a smirk, after I found out she was cheating with her boss. So I quietly canceled our wedding. Now she's begging my mother to get me back. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to believe in fairy tales. Not the Disney kind, but the real-life ones. The ones where you find your person, build a life together, and face the world as a team. For 5 years, I was living that fairy tale with Sarah. We met in college, fell in love, and promised each other forever. I was 27, she was 26, and our wedding was exactly 6 months away. The save the dates had gone out, the venue was booked, and the final list of vendors was pinned to a corkboard in our apartment. That corkboard, filled with dreams and plans, was the last truly happy thing we shared. The red flags, in retrospect, were less like subtle nudges and more like bright red flares. They just looked like a normal part of the engagement process. A little stress, a few small arguments about the budget. But it was more than that. She'd get irritable if I had a late night at work, even though I was doing it to earn more for our future. She'd spend hours on her phone, laughing at texts I couldn't see, and when I'd ask who it was, she'd just say, "Oh, just friends." I trusted her. I thought that was what a solid relationship was built on, that foundational trust. Then came the new job. She got a promotion to a new department and started working with this guy, Liam. The first few weeks, all I heard about was how brilliant and ambitious he was. "Alex, you wouldn't believe what Liam's doing with the new marketing campaign," she'd say, her eyes shining in a way they hadn't for me in months. "He's just so driven, you know? Like, he's a real go-getter." A lot of guys our age are just safe. I never really picked up on the subtle insult. I'd just smile and say I was happy for her. I was a supportive, committed partner. A safe one, apparently. The final nail in the coffin was an argument about the honeymoon. We'd always planned on a trip to the Amalfi Coast. But a few weeks ago, she changed her mind. She wanted to go to Bali. Her excuse was that Liam had been there recently, and it sounded so much more exotic. The conversation was strange, cold. It felt like she was already somewhere else. The day it all ended was a Sunday. We were at her parents' house for a big family dinner. Her uncle, a successful real estate investor, was asking me about my plans for the future. I told him about my promotion and my hope to start a family in the next few years. Sarah watched me, her face unreadable. He turned to her and said, "You've got a good one here, Sarah. A real one." That was the trigger. She snapped her head toward him, then toward me, a little smirk playing on her lips. She waited until her mom left the room to get dessert, then turned to me, her voice low but laced with ice. "He's right, Alex. You are a real one. You're safe. You're secure. You have a plan." She leaned in a little closer, her eyes boring into mine. "But I don't want a man who plays it safe. I want someone who takes risks. Someone who can give me more than just a house in the suburbs and a 401k. I felt my blood run cold. "What are you talking about, Sarah?" She let out a short, hollow laugh. "I told you about Liam. We've been seeing each other." The world went silent. I felt like I was hearing her from 1,000 miles away. "What do you mean, seeing each other?" Exactly what it sounds like. It started as a work thing, but we just clicked. He's ambitious, Alex. He's a hustler. He gets it. He wants to travel the world, live large. He wants more. She paused for a moment, and the smirk on her face grew wider, more confident. "Honestly, I'm not going to apologize for what I did. It was a mistake, but it was a necessary one. It showed me what I was missing. We're on different paths, Alex. You're happy with a normal life, but I need excitement. I need someone who understands ambition. Someone like Liam." I just stared at her, unable to form a coherent thought. She continued, as if I was a spectator to her grand monologue. "Don't make this a scene. It's embarrassing. I thought you'd understand. I mean, we both knew this was never going to work out in the long run. I was always going to need more." She stood up, a smug, satisfied look on her face, and walked toward the kitchen to help her mom with dessert. I sat there, paralyzed, the engagement ring on my fingers suddenly feeling like a dead weight. The chatter of her family in the next room, the smell of apple pie, it all felt surreal. She had just publicly, smugly, and cruelly ripped apart our entire life, and was now going to pretend everything was fine. I couldn't stay. I didn't say a word. I just slowly stood up, my mind a blank slate. I reached for the wedding binder sitting on the side table, took my half out, and placed it on the arm of the couch. Then, with a quiet dignity I didn't know I had, I walked out of the front door, leaving everything, the ring, the plans, the life we'd built, behind me. The walk from her parents' house to my car was the longest I've ever taken. I got in the driver's seat and just sat there for a minute, the car silent, the world outside a blur. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a quiet, cold detachment settling over me. The love I'd felt for Sarah, the life we'd planned, all of it just evaporated like morning mist under a harsh sun. It was gone, replaced by a profound emptiness. The next few days were a blur of practicalities. There was no grand, dramatic gesture. I just went about the grim business of dismantling a future. First, I went home and started gathering her things. I boxed up everything that was hers and set them by the front door. The apartment, once filled with our shared life, felt like a hollow museum of a person who no longer existed. Then, I started making the calls. I called the venue, the caterer, the DJ. Then my parents. My mom, a kind and sensitive woman, immediately heard the shift in my voice. "Alex, what's wrong? Are you okay?" she asked, her concern palpable. I told her what happened, leaving out the smug, cruel details. Sarah and I are no longer getting married. She decided to end things. The last call was the hardest. I called her mother. I knew it was something Sarah should have done, but I knew she wouldn't. The phone rang 3 times before she answered, her voice cheerful. "Alex, did Sarah finally confirm the caterer? She's been so busy with her new promotion." "No, Mrs. Miller," I said, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "I'm calling to tell you that the wedding is off. Sarah and I are no longer together." The line went silent. I just said my goodbyes and hung up. I couldn't stand there and explain her daughter's selfishness to her. It wasn't my job. My job was to sever all ties, to cut the cord, and to remove myself from her life as cleanly as possible. I sent her a text after my last call. It was the only message I sent. It said, "Your things are at the door. I've handled the cancellations. Goodbye, Sarah." Then, I did what I should have done days ago. I turned my phone to silent and set it on my desk. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for a text or a call. I was simply embracing the silence. I wasn't fighting, I wasn't begging, and I wasn't angry. All I felt was a vast, peaceful emptiness. The man who was going to marry her had died on that Sunday evening, and in his place was a different man. A man who was finally, truly, moving on. For a while, the silence was my only companion. I didn't reach out to mutual friends or social media to get an update on Sarah's life. I just focused on mine. I started going to the gym more, picked up my old hobby of woodworking, and even enrolled in an online course to get a new professional certification. I was so busy building a new life for myself, one plank of wood and one line of code at a time, that I barely thought about her. But the world has a way of serving up news you didn't ask for. It started with snippets from mutual friends. "Hey man, I heard about you and Sarah. I'm really sorry. My friend Mark texted me one night." I just responded, "It's all good, man. How are you?" He didn't respond for a bit. Then a few minutes later, the text came. "Yeah, I'm okay. But listen, Sarah and Liam. Things are kind of messy." That was it. The door was open, just a crack. I didn't push for more, but the seed of curiosity was planted. Then, I saw her at a mutual friend's birthday party a few weeks later. The same smug confidence she had when she left me was still there, but it felt different. It was a little too loud, a little too forced. She was draped over Liam, laughing exaggeratedly at his jokes. Liam, for his part, looked exactly like the brilliant, ambitious guy she described, on the surface. He was dressed in a sleek suit that looked expensive, but a nervous, shifty energy emanated from him. He spent most of the night on his phone, occasionally shouting a greeting to someone from across the room. He didn't seem to be talking to anyone. He seemed to be performing for everyone. I moved to another part of the room, but the oral updates kept coming. I overheard a hushed conversation between 2 of Sarah's friends. "He's been really weird lately. Says he's got all these investors, but Sarah's been complaining about money." The whispers died down when Sarah walked past, but the damage was done. The cracks were showing. Then came the final, spectacular crash. It was my birthday, a few months after everything happened. I had just finished dinner with my family, and was scrolling through my phone when I saw the news. It was a local article, and the headline was a gut punch. Social media influencer Liam Davis is indicted for securities fraud. The article detailed how Liam had been running a long-term scheme, raising money from investors for a non-existent company. His lifestyle, the expensive suits, the trips, the lavish dates, was funded entirely by his victims. He was an empty suit, a house of cards. And Sarah? Well, the article mentioned she was his accomplice, though her charges were less severe. I closed my phone, sat back, and felt a quiet, profound sense of justice settle in my bones. It was satisfying, but it was also final. The fairy tale she had left me for had just turned into a nightmare. The night the news broke about Liam, my phone started to buzz with notifications. It was an influx of messages from mutual friends. I answered a few, but mostly, I just let them sit. The drama felt like a movie I had already left. The final, spectacular crash was less a moment of triumph and more a confirmation of what I had instinctively known all along. A few days later, the real test began. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, I know this is a long shot, but it's Sarah. I know you've probably heard what happened. It's been really hard." I read the message and set my phone down. I didn't feel angry. Just nothing. I didn't block her. I just let the text sit in the void. A few more messages came over the next few days. "I just need someone to talk to. You were always so good at listening. I feel so stupid. I'm so sorry, Alex. About everything." The words were so hollow, so desperate. It wasn't an apology for betraying me. It was a plea for a soft landing. I ignored them all. Then, a few weeks later, the text changed. The subtle pleas gave way to a more aggressive, entitled tone. "Are you just going to ignore me? I'm going through a lot right now. I thought you would at least be a decent person about this. I know you're seeing these. This is really low of you. I just want to talk things through." Still, I did nothing. I let the silence be my response. It was a more powerful tool than any word could ever be. The final, desperate straw came when she crossed the line I had drawn in the sand. She called my mother. My phone rang, and I saw my mom's name. I answered, my voice a little hesitant. "Alex, honey, are you okay? Sarah just called me," she said, her voice a mix of concern and confusion. She was crying, saying she had made a terrible mistake and that she's so alone. She said she needs to talk to you. A cold calm washed over me. I had to protect my mom from this drama. "What did you say to her?" "I just listened." "She was very upset. She was trying to get me to give you a message. She said she's not the same person, that she's learned her lesson." "Mom, she's trying to use you to get to me," I said, my voice firm and low. "Please don't talk to her again. I'm sorry she put you in this position. From now on, just block her number. Don't answer. I've moved on, and you need to as well. This is her problem, not ours." "Okay, honey. I will. I'm so proud of you for how you're handling this." My mom's praise was the only validation I needed. The last time I saw her was not planned. It was a complete coincidence. I was meeting my new girlfriend, Emily, for dinner at a new restaurant that had just opened up. We were walking in, laughing about something she'd said, when I saw her. Sarah was sitting at a small table near the entrance, eating alone. She looked different. Her eyes were puffy and red, and the smug confidence was gone, replaced by a kind of haggard anxiety. She was scrolling through her phone, not looking up. Emily and I were seated at a table across the room. We ordered drinks, and as I was talking to Emily, I happened to glance over. Sarah was staring directly at me, her eyes wide with recognition. She saw me. She saw me laughing. And she saw Emily, who was smiling at me in a way that spoke volumes. The power dynamic flipped in an instant. Her face went pale as she realized that the man she left for more was now happy with someone who was, in every conceivable way, an upgrade. A few minutes later, she stood up and started walking toward our table. Emily saw her coming and looked at me, her expression questioning. I simply placed my hand on hers and gave her a slight shake of my head. I was calm. Sarah stopped at our table, her eyes darting between me and Emily. "Alex, can I talk to you for a minute?" Alone. I didn't invite her to sit. I just looked at her, my face a polite, neutral mask. "Sarah, this is Emily." "Emily, this is Sarah." "No, you can't." Her composure cracked. "Look, I need to talk to you. Please. Just for a minute." Her voice was a desperate whisper. "Things are really bad right now. Liam left me. My family won't talk to me. I'm so alone. I miss you. I miss us. I took a slow breath and looked her directly in the eye. My voice was calm and firm. The person you knew, the one who planned a wedding and tried to build a life with you, is gone, I said, my voice steady. He was gone the moment you told him you weren't sorry. The person standing in front of you now has a new life, a new plan, and a new future. I gestured to Emily, and I've never been happier. She opened her mouth to speak, her face crumpling with a mix of shock and desperation, but I didn't let her. I genuinely hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Sarah. But it's not here. And it's not with me. I turned my attention back to Emily. Sarah just stood there for a moment, silent, before she turned and walked away. I didn't watch her go. I just continued my conversation with Emily, a peaceful feeling of finality washing over me. The ghost of our past was gone for good, and I was finally, truly, free. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.